Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. An announcement that caught me a bit off guard. On the undercard of the recently announced Dalton Smith versus Jose Zepeda fight, we're going to be seeing Sandy Ryan defend her WBO title against two-division current reigning WBA junior middleweight champion Terry Harper, who will be moving down in weight for this fight. And they really kept a lid on this because I had no idea they were planning on doing this, that the wheels were in motion for a Ryan versus Harper fight. Not what I expected at all, but I suppose that for Sandy, this is one of the bigger fights that she can have. She's already been there and done that with Jessica McCaskill, and Jessica's currently unavailable for a rematch. Fat chance she gets Natasha Jonas in the ring. Natasha's over there at Sky Sports and Boxer, whereas Terry's right there alongside her at Matchroom, at her around her weight, so here we are. I don't think if Terry loses, it'll affect her status up there at 154. I don't think, because this isn't a junior middleweight contest. It's a welterweight contest. You think Terry's gonna lose? I think it's a possibility. Terry's 27, whereas Sandy's 30. 30 years old to Terry Harper, who's 2 or 3 years younger than Sandy Ryan is, but she's got a lot more pro experience, more fights, more rounds in the bank, more ups and downs, more experience. Sporting a professional record of 14 wins with 1 loss, 2 draws, 6 knockouts, having been knocked out at least once in 17 professional bouts. To Sandy Ryan, who's a lot less seasoned, sporting a professional record of 6 wins with 1 loss, 1 draw, 2 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 8 professional bouts. It says a lot about Sandy that with so few pro fights, she's already been in there with Jessica McCaskill, Erica Farias 2 times, and she's already a world champion. She has a high ceiling. And that's why they were able to match her so tough so early in her career with so few pro fights. But I reiterate, she is the less experienced fighter of the two, with less rounds in the bank. They've both been keeping a similar schedule of activity. Last year, they both fought 2 times. Sandy fought Marie-Pierre Huel back in April, gave Marie her first professional loss. She suffered that controversial split decision draw against Jessica McCaskill in September. By all rights, Sandy should be a unified champion here today, but she got jobbed. She got robbed on American soil. They wanted to do a rematch afterwards, but they couldn't because Jessica was under orders to defend her titles against the mandatory challenger, Ivana Habazin, who she's going to be fighting in April. And it's not likely that Jessica goes back into business with the people over there at Matchroom. I think they're done. I think they're done with Jessica after what she said on the Boxing Voice. She insinuated that Matchroom may have had a hand in Alicia Baumgartner's failed anti-doping test. So I anticipate that we probably don't see a Sandy Ryan versus Jessica McCaskill rematch. If Jessica can stay a champion beyond April, she'll likely get in the ring with Natasha Jonas. I don't think she fights the winner of this fight. I think she's all but done at Matchroom, or Matchroom is done with her. And the people at Matchroom are keeping things in-house with this one. 2 of the Matchroom Valkyries, the one from 147 and the other from 154. What do I think about the fight? Well, I like Sandy Ryan, and I like Terry Harper, and I really don't like when 2 of my faves fight each other, but it's their job. How I think all of this came into being. Well, Sandy Ryan likely wanted a big fight, but she couldn't run it back with Jessica, and Natasha's over there on Sky Sports and Boxer. She just fought. She's unavailable, and all the politics associated with a fight like that, it would have been difficult for Sandy to find a big fight at this weight. And Terry could have pursued another belt at 154, looked for a unification match, but it wouldn't have the same profile that this fight has. There are very few stars up there at 154. Terry, she's really the only one. In a nutshell, I feel like the reason we're getting this, even though it's impromptu, it feels unexpected. I feel like the reason we're getting it is because, hey, both girls wanted a big fight.
so why not fight each other?
Terry's best punches are her straight punches, whether it's from the outside coming in or moving lateral to keep the opponent off of her. Her best punches are her straight punches, and she can really drive them when she's got room to work. She's got good movement, too, so she can create that space. I think something similar applies to Sandy Ryan. She moves well, too, but she's more of a mid-range fighter. Her best punches are her hooks, her uppercuts, her body shots. She likes to play her opponents close. She can box from the outside if the situation calls for it, though I think she'd prefer to bang on the inside.
She's a little bit more spiteful than Terry.
Terry is more experienced, whereas Sandy is more durable. I think Sandy takes a better shot and wears it better than Terry Harper. It's a very interesting matchup.
And we'll talk more about it as the fight date approaches.
In men's lightweight news, Devin Haney says he's tired of the back and forth with Javante Davis. Have your people reach out, Javante. And we know that very recently Turki Al-Sheikh expressed an interest in bankrolling that fight, doing that fight in their region of the world on their dime, and we know that Javante responded to that, more or less, by demanding 2 Ferraris be delivered to his door.
On top of his fight purse.
Javante Davis is all talk. At least according to Devin Haney. The 29-year-old is bombastic when he calls out Haney, but the current WBC super lightweight champion is noticing an irritating pattern. I've been calling that dude out for years, wrote Haney on his social media. He only says something when I've got to fight, but now I don't. We can fight now, wherever he chooses. Devin doesn't have a problem taking a back seat to one of boxing's biggest stars. The bloviating coming from both sides is extraneous. From Haney's point of view, if Davis wants to make the fight happen, he'll pick up the phone and give him a ring. He said we don't know how to get in contact with him. Well, have your people reach out, Javante.
He's not going to do that.
As stated, when news broke that His Excellency himself, Turki Al-Sheikh, would like to bring that fight to Saudi Arabia, and he's willing to pay for it, Javante Davis's response to that news was he would require 2 Ferraris delivered to his door just to do the fight, just to get him over there. And in all actuality, this isn't about Ferraris.
No.
And it's not about life-altering money either. I mean, I know a lot of people like to say that Javante Davis isn't a legacy fighter. What he's fighting for the bag.
No.
But if it were really about the bag...
Is he a boxer or a video vixen?
Think about that response. That's the response to someone making the proposition, someone with a lot of means and a lot of money to make things happen, who proposes they want you to fight one of your contemporaries and they're willing to pay you very good money to do it. The best money in boxing right now. And your response to that is...
What do you got for me? I want 2 Ferrari.
Feels, it sounds like something a reality TV star would say, like a Kardashian or a Brittany Renner. Not a boxer. This is how a boxer reacts to a boxing match. The proposition of a boxing match. When you listen and you realize... this is not about the bag.
No.
This is not about Ferraris.
No.
This is about maintaining an image, a gimmick, an illusion, really. The illusion that Javante is among the best fighters in the world. Underneath it all, they know if you send that kid to Saudi, that's where he gets exposed. That's where the bubble bursts. Once he steps outside of his bubble, that PBC bubble, and he's exposed to what other fighters are out there, like Devin Haney, like Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo, just all these other young guys that are running around. One of them, in this situation, Devin Haney, he's too risky, and he might get him, even for the money that the Saudis are offering, because I'm sure that fighting Devin right now pays more than fighting Frank Martin. It pays more than fighting Rayo. It pays more than fighting Isaac again. It pays more than fighting any of those guys on your side of the street. And even with that, you still don't want to do it.
Because it's not about the bag. It's not about the bag. It's not about Ferraris. It's not about any of that. That's just a smokescreen. A smokescreen they've been using for a long time that people are now starting to see through.
Those are just excuses. The truth is, Javante Davis is only really good against a certain kind of boxer. He's only good depending on how you match him. If you match him against somebody like Devin Haney or Shakur Stevenson, well, he might look as limited as Regis Prograis did with Devin.
Carrasco Valdez with Shakur.
The truth is, you can't offer him enough money to fight those fighters.
He won't do it.
And finally, in men's heavyweight news, Eddie Hearn said, Joshua demolished Valine. I believe he'll do the same to Ngannou. But as a result of Anthony Joshua moving on so quickly, without Deontay Wilder, well, that's given rise to some criticisms that he never wanted to fight Wilder, and he's just using Wilder's loss to Joseph Parker as an excuse. To that, Eddie Hearn said, look,
Listen.
we were due to announce the Deontay Wilder fight in the ring that night. Both guys had signed a contract to announce the fight, and Turki Al-Sheikh was very excited. Obviously, it was one of the most highly anticipated fights that could be made this fall. It's 4 years in the making. Everyone was really excited. Obviously, Deontay Wilder lost, so from that moment, the cogs are turning in Al-Sheikh's mind. What are we going to do with March 8th, March 9th? As soon as the fights finish, he's like, right, let's talk. And we had a meeting, and I said to him, I think Francis Ngannou is the biggest fight out there. I said it to you when I came on the MMA Hour after Fury versus Ngannou. We're talking about two giants in Anthony Joshua and Francis.
But there are some people, they won't take it from Eddie Hearn just because he's the one saying it, just because he's the one saying this, that the contracts were signed, the fight was made. It's Wilder who couldn't hold up his end of the bargain. They won't take it from Eddie.
But Turki Al-Sheikh himself in his recent sit-down interview said it wouldn't be reasonable to do the Wilder fight now due to his physical condition and obviously his performance against Joseph Parker. Common sense just ain't that common with the American boxing fan. That's the gist of it, because in spite of all this, you still see people complaining.
Let him complain.
Eddie Hearn continued, we're talking about two giants in Anthony Joshua and Francis Ngannou. Two men who look like they're carved out of stone, two devastating punchers. And I've always felt it was the biggest fight out there. I told Al-Sheikh that, and he felt the same. And these people, they move very quickly.
They do, because they made this in a jiffy.
Big fight like this one being made in that kind of time, that quickly, that's not what the boxing fans are used to, at least not the American ones. They're used to having their time wasted for days, weeks, months, for years on end, back and forth between teams, the drama. That's what they're used to. They're not used to seeing people get the job done in a timely fashion.
I guess they would rather have their time wasted.
Eddie Hearn is expecting a very dominant victory by his man. Honestly, previous to the Fury fight, it wasn't a fight that Joshua was interested in, Hearn said. Obviously, we just boxed a guy in Otto Wallin that really gave Fury a really tough time. Cut him. I think he had 48 stitches. The fight should have been stopped. Otto Wallin should have won that fight. But it is what it is, and AJ went out, and it was a mismatch. He demolished Wallin, and I believe we're going to do the same here. So that performance over Tyson Fury, of course, that was really the point. The moment that made this fight credible, and he's right. Without Fury versus Ngannou, we wouldn't get Joshua versus Ngannou.
Because if he's good enough for Fury, why wouldn't he be good enough for AJ? Isn't Fury supposed to be better than AJ?
Francis Ngannou's longtime trainer Dewey Cooper was recently asked, who's the bigger threat, Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury?
He gave a surprising answer.
This fight is different to the Tyson Fury fight. The dynamics are different. Fury is a highly skilled guy and difficult to match skill and brains and IQ. Joshua is a stronger guy. He's more of a threat. He has that power, a strong jab, and that excellent right hand. He's a big, strong guy like Francis Ngannou. So you got two Herculean dudes going against each other. So aesthetically, it's gonna look like heavyweight boxing is supposed to look.
So he's saying AJ's a bigger threat than Fury.
Few interesting tidbits in association with this thing. Before Team Ngannou landed on Tyson Fury late last year, they approached Anthony Joshua first. I believe it was in February of last year. And in February of last year, when those talks first kicked off, Anthony had not yet rebounded off the two consecutive losses to Alexander Usyk. He was down in the dumps and viewed by many as low-hanging fruit. He had not yet fought Jermaine Franklin or Robert Helenius. He obviously hadn't fought Otto Wallin yet. That was late last year. So the perception of this fighter at that point was very different to the perception of him at this point.
And if he would have fought Francis then, they would have crucified him for it.
Off two back-to-back losses to Alexander Usyk, you're gonna box an MMA fighter who never had a professional boxing match. What are you, on the verge of retirement? That's what people would have said.
The Ngannou people, having approached Anthony Joshua at that time to see about doing a fight, they likely thought it was a very opportune time to fight Anthony Joshua. He's coming off of 2 back-to-back losses to a smaller guy.
That was then, and this is now. The fight didn't materialize then. He ended up fighting Tyson Fury. Instead, he ended up fighting Tyson Fury first. Now he's fighting Anthony Joshua. And what I'm noticing from Francis Ngannou and his team, it's like they're backtracking. It's like they're just now starting to realize that this is a tougher assignment than they initially thought. Because I read an article where Francis Ngannou characterized this fight as being complex. More complex because he hasn't fought Anthony Joshua before and he no longer has the element of surprise. People have now seen Francis in the ring and they know a bit about what he can do. His trainer, Dewey Cooper, is characterizing Anthony as a threat. A bigger threat than Tyson Fury because of that piston jab, that homing missile right hand, and the strength, the power that Anthony brings to the table. See, it seems to me they thought he was just some chinny heavyweight from the United Kingdom, but now that they've had a look at him, they realize this might be harder than you thought. Dewey Cooper continued, the grit, will, and desire of Francis Ngannou will be stronger and outdo that same thing in Anthony Joshua. Joshua has power, so we have to be very sharp and strong, and those are 2 things we plan on doing anyway. So it's another day at the office for us. I mean, it sounds good. I don't want to say that Team Ngannou is scared, but it does feel like they're backtracking because I remember Francis started off by saying Anthony is some chinny heavyweight. He heard he's a chinny guy. Now he's saying he's complex and he's strong, and his trainer's saying the same thing, that he's a threat.
But he's beaming with confidence. Anthony looks happy.
And we'll see what happens, because I'm not telling you that Francis Ngannou is somebody that Anthony should look past or take lightly. No, Anthony's a consummate professional. He's not going to take him lightly, like Tyson Fury did. But I think it's the Ngannou team that are getting more than what they bargained for, whereas Anthony, he knows what he signed up for. You're the guy that dropped Tyson Fury.
Let's see if you can do that to me.
Because I'm the chinny one. Ain't that what you called him? You said he's the chinny one. Let's see if you can do to him what you did to Tyson Fury. It's intriguing. It's a genuinely intriguing situation that is only made intriguing because of what happened to Tyson Fury. Without him stinking out the joint, we wouldn't be here now. I wouldn't entertain a circus fight like this one. But because Francis showed he can handle himself in the ring against one of the top 5 guys at the weight, bring on Anthony!
Let's see what happens.
And even better is that they made it in a timely fashion. It didn't take a year and a day to make the fight a reality. It's right around the corner. Next month, we get Undisputed. The month after that, we get Joshua versus Ngannou. This is all in the first quarter of this year.
How could you complain?